I'm leaving for Shanghai and Seoul in like one day. Yeah, the size of the city is just things have not been going exactly how I wanted to. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm leaving for Shanghai and Seoul in like one day, and I thought I would share with you all the things that I do before and during my travel to kind of make the most of my trips. I'm someone that when I travel, I always think that, there's a big chance I'm not coming back to that place again. So I need to make the most of it the first time around. So I'm going to share with you how I go about traveling and still keep my wellness and food routine while I am away, because that's also a big part of, what helps me stay healthy and mentally stable. This vlog is actually going to be spread out on like a couple of weeks because I'm going for 3 weeks in total. I'm doing 2 weeks in Shanghai and 1 week in Seoul. So I'm gonna kind of like try to bring you along and then sporadically include some of my thoughts and some of my tips. So it's gonna be kind of different, but I feel like it's gonna be fun to film as well. The first thing that I wanted to talk about is the whole preparation phase, which I absolutely love, and it includes a lot of different steps in that preparation phase. I'm going to share all that with you. But to me, the preparation is so fun because it gets me in the mood of my upcoming travel, and it sort of extends my actual travel in a way. You know what I mean? Like, because I am preparing like maybe a week or two in advance, and I'm already thinking about those destinations, and I kind of have like a foot there already, if that makes any sense. So what I first do is obviously research, and I go and kind of like get a brief overview of the history of that place. I just feel like it's so important to take a minute and understand the history of that place a little bit better, because it's gonna give you a better understanding of the place in itself, why the city is structured a certain way, how the people are behaving, and the culture. And personally, it has made me appreciate the destinations to which I've traveled to way more, you know what I mean? So I like to take a minute for that. And it doesn't need to be like an in-depth kind of research that you do about the destination, really not. Sometimes just a timeline of what like the main events are in that place, in that country, might just do, and will help you get a better understanding of everything. The next thing that I do, now that I have the history in mind, I like to kind of have a look at the different neighborhoods of the city. By the way, I would say that those tips are more relatable if you're going to like a big city rather than an exotic kind of destinations, all right? So yeah, I'm gonna have a look at the neighborhoods, and that really helps me decide where I want to stay when I am traveling to that city or that country, and whether I want more like an old kind of like old town kind of feels, or whether I want to be in the hustle and bustle. And usually that's where I like to be, and I have found that where you decide to stay in the city really is going to be defining for the experience that you get, because I've had times where I would maybe choose like a nicer hotel, but it would be more like out of the way, and then you would have to like take into consideration the commute time and everything. Whereas now I would rather stay in a less like cool hotel but be right in the heart of the city, so that I can just like walk around super easily and be right in the core of things, if that makes any sense. After the history, I have a look at the neighborhoods. That helps me get a better idea of where I want to be staying, and then I go on a hunt for recommendations regarding attractions, things to see, but also food recommendation. And the way that I go about it is, obviously, if you have friends or family that've been there, they're the first, they're the first people you should be asking, because you can really trust their recommendations. But for me, a big part of that is actually watching YouTube travel vlogs. I just love watching travel vlogs so much, and I'll just like save any points that I find very interesting. Another way that I found really cool recommendation is using TikTok. I must say it's been very, very helpful for this upcoming trip. I found like so many fun and quirky places. I cannot wait to try to see how good they actually are. I also use a lot of Pinterest. I think it's so underrated underrated, and yet it's so good when you're traveling because I feel like they have a lot of hidden gems in there. And another thing that I really find useful about it is that you can find a lot of travel itinerary, and I have been integrating that a lot in like my travel plans. So I use Pinterest. I don't really use Instagram. I don't know, maybe I'm not going about it the right way, but I just don't find anything interesting on there. And of course I use Google Maps heavily. I love Google Maps so much. I would sometimes just play around with it and filter like by restaurants and ratings and just like save the spots that come up with like the highest ratings. However, because I am going to Shanghai and Seoul, two cities that are kind of not really into Google Maps, I feel like it's been harder because the places are less reviewed by like less number of people. So I don't know how good the recommendations from there are. And then what I do, and I would say it takes a little bit more effort to do that, but I like to plan out my travel itinerary. Like I like to have a plan for every day of my travel because I just feel like I personally really do not like waking up in a new city like while I'm traveling and having no idea what I'm gonna be doing that day.
Because first of all, I feel like I'm not going to be super productive. I'm not going to be optimizing my time. So I just like to have like a brief plan for every day. I must say it's never like a rigid itinerary. I just like to have like, okay, if we're there for 7 days, this is 7 days of worth of stuff that you can do. And you know, depending on how you feel that day, you can like just mix and match.
The last thing that I do, actually next to last, no, actually not even next to last, but the next thing that I do is I like to have like food bucket list for my travels. It's something a little bit new that I'm doing, and I usually do this in countries where I am not really familiar with their cuisine, because so I would watch all those travel vlogs and a lot of times I would just see the same foods coming up like again and again, and that gives me a good indication as to what foods I should absolutely try. So what I'll do is like I have 3 items for each city of things that I would need to try, and preferably from places that are more local than touristy to really get a local feel of those foods. The next thing that I like to do for this preparation phase of my travel is actually setting my intentions for, you know, my travel. So it's a concept that I have had from Sammy Clark, and I just love how like intentional it makes you travel. What I'll do is I'll just write 3 to 5 intentions that I have for me while I am away, and it can be really anything. It can be like new things that you want to try. It can be like feelings and emotions that you want to sink into. I'm gonna share a few of my intentions for this travel with you. I usually make it a moment, you know, to set my intentions. I go to a cafe and I do a little journaling moment. And so today I actually wrote my intentions. I'm not gonna say everything though. So the first one that I have is to keep a daily travel log. I thought it would be so fun that every night or every like morning that I actually write about what I did the day before or the day of. I was thinking, you know, if I do this for 3 weeks, it's gonna be like 21 travel logs that I'll have in my journal to look back on, and that's just so fun to think about. Another intention that I have is to go on long city walks. I just love walking in a city. I don't know, there's something very therapeutic about it. Maybe it's because I live in Bali and you can't really walk around here because first of all it's way too hot, second it's too crazy and crowded. It's actually dangerous, so I would not recommend. But going in a city, like in a big city, and just like walking around, whether you are listening to a podcast or not, or just like really indulging on all these street sounds and the people around you, I think it's so fun, and I can do that for hours non-stop. Like it's something that I just love to do and that I want to do more. The next thing that I want to share with you is I want to do a no phone people watching session in each city, maybe at least like 3 times, because what I found is that I love doing people watching, first of all, but too often like my phone gets in the way of things, you know, like I'll be seated somewhere in a cafe and looking around, and then I'll just have like those random thoughts popping up in my mind, and that would just like urge me to go to my phone and, I don't know, reply to a message or do something. I want to have like dedicated at least like maybe 30 minutes sessions where I just put my phone away and I am fully in the present watching people and just like being passive but being active at the same time. I don't know if it makes sense. I have two more intentions on that, but it's more private, so I'm not going to share that with you. And that is it for my preparation phase. Oh yeah, obviously, last but not least, I'm not gonna go into how I do that because you all know how to pack a suitcase at this point, and I don't do it any differently than anyone. I don't like it, but you still have to do it. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna start packing, and yeah, I will catch up with you a little later. Alright, you guys, packing is done. I tried as much as possible to not overpack, but I still managed to feel like a whole suitcase. So maybe I'll try to take some things out. Anyways, I'm going to catch up with you when I land in Shanghai. Hey guys, we are in Shanghai and so far I love it. So here are my first impressions. First of all, for some reason I thought it would not be as big as it is, and I think it's because when I was doing my research for like the things to do in Shanghai and I was pinning everything on Google Maps, I was not able to have like the directions from one place to another, so I had no estimation of how long it would take to go from point A to point B. And in reality, I mean, what I thought on the map would be maybe like 15 minutes walk is actually like 30 or more. Like the distances and yeah, the size of the city is just way bigger than what I was expecting. I was expecting something super modern, but like maybe like a little bit too modern. And then I come here and the city, yes, it has like a lot of modern skyscrapers, etc., but it has so many like charming neighborhoods that I absolutely love. The cool thing is that you can go from one neighborhood to another and it's like a different sort of architecture. The style, the vibe is super different. So within the same cities, I would say you have like different pocket cities, which is also something that is so cool. Another thing that I was quite surprised, but I should not have been, is how crowded it can get. So we were going out at night to like a restaurant and it was by the river, and I promise you guys, the amount of people just like walking in the same direction was insane. I had never seen that in my life. I don't know if it's because it's a special season right now or it's because like, yeah, it's summer or whatever, but yeah, it can get really crowded. And other than that, I was surprised by how clean everything is and how sophisticated and chic the city is in general. I really like it. I think is definitely a city you should be visiting. It had the same effect on me than Tokyo did, in the sense that it really transported me into like this whole other world that I had never like experienced before. Like anything similar to that I have never experienced before, which is so cool, and obviously which is, you know, the best part about traveling. Anyways, I wanted to take a few minutes to share with you my wellness routines while I am traveling. By the way, I'm sorry, I changed my angle a little bit because the lighting seems to be better. So for me, before, while I was traveling, I would just go off my routines 100%. I would not work out, and even for my nutrition I would even go kind of like on a bender. But you know, this type of mindset is totally fine when you're gone for just a few days, you know, for a long weekend, or even like if you're gone for a week, it's fine. But for me, once it is more than a week, then it kind of is counterproductive, and it does more harm to me than good, because I realized that if I kept this mindset, which I did for a long time in the past, I would just like be on a vacation from everything. Then coming back home would be so hard, so daunting, and would require so much more effort to me to get back on track, because for the whole time while I was on vacation, I would just not work out, I would just eat whatever I wanted. So to kind of like rewire myself again would be very hard, and also very counterproductive, because any progress that I would have done before would just be erased completely by my travels. And I just did not like this mindset. It just felt like too much work for me. And now I just see travel as this like a continuity to all the good practices and healthy lifestyle that I have built for myself over time. And to be honest, I think it happened quite naturally, because the minute that I had grown enough for me to understand that, you know, things like working out or nutrition or any other tools were actually contributing to my happiness rather than taking it away, then I just wanted to make sure that I kept doing it as much as I could. And I have talked about this concept of a toolbox a lot of times on my channel already, which is basically like this idea of having all those tools that you know really can contribute to your happiness, that you put it in a toolbox and you just use it as much as you can. And that's what I try to do during my travels as well. Those are things like meditating, reading, journaling, and movement, among other things as well. But I'm gonna say during my travels, I tend to meditate less. I just don't feel very called towards that, so that's all right. But I do find that movement is a non-negotiable. It just makes me such a better person. It enhances my moods and also my energy levels. So I really try to have like daily movement integrated in my days, and that can be really anything. It can be like a little walk on a treadmill if that's all you can do. It can be some stretching or yoga, but also what I try to do mostly is just walking around the city. Is just such a great way to soak in all the sides of this new destination that you are in, but also, you know, have a feel of the culture and the people. And apart from movement, I also love doing journaling. It's just like a great way to kind of log in your travels when you're away, and it's going to be so fun to look back on those entries afterwards. And obviously reading is just like such a cool thing to do when you are in bed before going to sleep, or even like, I don't know, lounging by the pool. So that are kind of like my wellness things that I try to do whenever I travel. I reach out to those things as much as I can. And when it comes to food, I try to keep the same balanced mindset. You know, on one side trying to indulge in all the local specialties of this new destination, but on the other side really trying to not neglect my health. Because before, as I was saying, I would be almost binge eating, because in my mind, whenever I was traveling, this would be the time to have the most cheap meals I could, because I was able to, because I was away. And to be honest, I would end up not feeling really comfortable in my body. So now I really have this idea of a bucket list with all the yummy things that I want to try when I'm away. But other than that, I really try to keep it clean and focus on, you know, getting my protein and my fibers in mostly. And the way that I do things is, if I really want to eat something or try something new, then I'm just gonna do it. But then on my next meal, I try to have cleaner choices, if that makes sense. And also one thing that I am really trying to keep in mind is that I don't need to finish everything on my plate. I know that it's not nice to waste food, but my point is sometimes a few bites might just do the trick in terms of satisfying your cravings. You don't need to wipe down the plate clean, especially if it comes to like fried or very heavy starchy dishes. You know what I mean? And just like that, we were off to Seoul. I wanted to share a few of my thoughts on Seoul with you before I wrap things up. First of all, the city is huge, and like Tokyo, each neighborhood really felt like its own little city. So in 10 days, there was plenty to do. One of my favorite areas was the historical district, which was basically kind of north of Myeongdong and Insadong and the whole like Bokchon Hanok village. That's where all the palaces were, tons of cute bakeries, and at night, lots of street food markets. Gangnam was also a very cool area to explore. Definitely more posh, but very cute with really nice restaurants. However, I must say Seoul was harder to get around compared to Shanghai in the sense that our debit cards were just not working at all, which was definitely stressful at first, but we found a solution in the end, so all was well. And other than that, we had a great time in Seoul. It's such a fun city that I absolutely recommend you see it for yourself. Update. It is a little bit more than 2.5 weeks since I filmed the last segment where I was talking in the hotel room. That was in Shanghai, and now I am approaching the end of my trip. I'm currently in Seoul, and I just wanted to give you an update on how things have been going, especially regarding my whole nutrition kind of like balancing act, because things have not been going exactly how I wanted to. I must say, usually I'm very good at being a bit more balanced in how I approach nutrition while I'm traveling, but for some reason this time it was very hard. I think the reason why it was that hard is because Chinese food is like my favorite food, and for me to resist the temptation to try like stuff was so hard. And so I went all out and definitely indulged a bit more than I would like to admit, and that's all right. Like I have no regrets regarding that because it is my favorite food, and it was such a big part of my travel and such a big part of my, experience. So I don't regret at all. Just wanted to give you like an honest update regarding that. And regarding food in Seoul, it has also been a bit of a challenge, but for different reasons. The cuisine here is very meat centric and meat heavy. And for someone that doesn't eat red meat like me, it was very hard to kind of like try out all the local fare. And that's all right, but it meant that I had to eat more basic stuff like pizza, pasta, and burgers, just things where there was no like red meat, pork, whatever. And since I also am not eating seafood at the moment because I had a strong allergic reaction back in Shanghai, that does limit my choices here. And those like more basic choices obviously are more carbs heavy, and for someone that usually eats very high protein meals, let's just say I am out of my comfort zone. But it's all right, it is part of traveling. You have to adapt and adjust. And yeah, that's how it's been going. Definitely different from what I was thinking. A lot less balanced than what I usually do, but that's all right. I just wanted to give you an honest update. I am panting right now because I'm walking like up and downhill. So yeah, anyways, this is bringing us to the end of this how to make the most of your travel kind of vlog. I hope you liked it, and I will see you soon for another video.